Hello, my name is John Gillard. I'm a professor of statistics and data science at Cardiff University and one of the editorial board for Real World Data Science. Here with me today, Dr. Matthew Jones from Nationwide. Thank you for joining me today, Matthew.
Hi, John. My pleasure. Good to be here.
Great. I was wondering if you could kick us off then about explaining what your current position at Nationwide is and your career trajectory to get there to date.
No problem. So my job is called Head of Decision Science and Analytical Innovation. And essentially what it is, a team of modelers and data scientists that look to build tools for a wider area of the business. And it covers credit risk. So that could be where you're looking to get scoring done and assessing the risk of a customer when they apply. Looking at collections and recoveries. So that's where customers unfortunately have missed payments and how we can service their needs best. And we've also got then economic crime, which is looking into, I guess, behaviours which could be considered as fraudulent or people who are money laundering. It's sort of a part of what's called the risk community, which is responsible for managing a wide range of risks within the society. My background is I did a PhD back in late or early 2000s, which is in statistics. I then looked to sort of pursue a career in statistics, firstly as a consultant to pharmaceutical companies. And then I basically moved into the banking sector because I like the idea of getting my hands on some data, doing some analysis, and I guess looking to create models that drive improved outcomes. Ultimately, what happened then was as I developed my career, I became more into a management capacity. So that's where I had analysts working with me to sort of build models. And my career then continued up the levels where now it's more, I guess, in the context of mobilizing a large team to deliver tools for the business at scale, but also ensuring that strategically Nationwide are thinking in the right way about how we go about tackling problems, providing the best service to our members, and ensuring that I guess my team have got the right tools to do the job.
Yeah, and so on tools then, so you mentioned that you've got quite a diverse portfolio of things you look after there, from credit risk to looking after customers at risk as well. Are there any specific data science tools that are your bread and butter that you use in Nationwide or in the industry more broadly?
Yeah, so there's a couple of tools that we use broadly for data science, which is Python, which I'm sure you're familiar with, which allows a lot of freedom, creativity to sort of develop use new tools and techniques. And we've also got a piece of software called SAS, which has built-in functionality, which again, we can do data science on. So which one we use depends on what the problem statement is. And also the kind of things we have to think about is, can I implement the model? Because if you design a model, for example, in a certain system that you can't implement, then there's, basically it's just going to stick on the shelf all the time. The other thing worth calling out, which is quite interesting, what I found in my career is that you need to think what the problem statement is before you come up with a solution. A common mistake can be data science is very exciting. It's to delve into looking at data science solutions, but then trying to find the problem instead of the other way around. So the best thing is know what your problem is. On some occasions, it could be a cross-tabulation is the answer. On other occasions, it could be linear discriminant analysis, a more complex type of machine learning. It all depends on, I guess, what the problem is. But that's part of the challenge, is picking the right tool for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of the same coin then, I mean, what about the data? I mean, what's the volume of data that you currently look at for some of the problems that you mentioned earlier?
So typically, because we work within Nationwide, which is, I guess, the world's biggest building society, it's got a very large member base. So those are customers who've got current accounts of transactional data. We've got a big share of the mortgage market. We typically have a lot of data, which it ranges at minimum of the tens of thousands, into the millions. The customer base, I think, is about 18 million. Then when you think of the breadth of the data, we'll have thousands of data items ranging from customer information, things we've got off the credit bureau, transactional, but it'll all depend on what the problem as to which one you use.
Yeah. And in terms of the scale of data science then at Nationwide, can you put a rough figure on the number of people in an analytical role in Nationwide?
In terms of analytical role, because it's on a sliding scale, you're looking at probably the hundreds.
All right.
When it comes down to the data scientists, probably say you would be, around maybe the 50 mark.
Okay. Okay. And what are the backgrounds then of those people? Are they mathematicians, computer scientists? Do they have PhDs, MScs?
It's quite a variety. If I think about my team within my area, I've got an advanced analytics part of the team. So predominantly the people that I have in that area have got PhDs in maths or something equivalent, or got a very strong degree in sort of learning their trade. Because the challenge with data science, particularly if you're going to be looking to push the envelope, so to say, is that if you do have the specialized skills already available, it sort of enables you to be able to sort of look to tackle the problems. Having said that, data science has now become so accessible with a lot of the tooling that's available. It's far more open market. But the big challenge is, as you know, John, will be that you need to understand what's going on underneath the hood. And even further than that, where you talk about data, we've obviously got some big data sets at Nationwide. But one of the biggest parts I think of a data scientist job is making sure the data is right. So, you do quality assurance checks on it. You make sure if there's missing data, you know how to handle it. And if any of the data has got the wrong type compared to what it should be. So, the devil's in the details, because it's like if you're going to cook a fantastic 5-star Michelin meal, you need to know what ingredients you've got. You can't just pick up a couple of pots or you don't know where it is and just chuck it in,
Yeah, yeah. That leads us on to then, you mentioned about pushing the envelope, future gazing then into what the tools of financial services might be in 5 or 10 years' time. Of course, the buzzwords on everyone's lips is generative AI and large language models.
Yeah.
Do you see those things playing a role in Nationwide or financial services more generally moving forward?
Oh, for certain. It's very much a hot potato, as you said. I think it's about, maybe a year ago that it really sort of started to lift off with ChatGPT 4. And, when you think of the large language models, I can't necessarily see the financial service companies developing themselves. And that's because the sheer volume of data, you're talking about terabytes. And the processing capability and things needed to do that. I see it more so that the large language model, foundation model, will be acquired by financial services, and then applications will be made to that in terms of using that, whether it be to enhance your risk management decisions, drive efficiencies in how you document. It's very quite broad ranging. The kind of skills then within that space that will be needed. If you're familiar with prompt engineering, so it's how you sort of interface with the LLM models. There's other elements then, which I'm sure will become a growing areas. How do I validate the model? How do I ensure that it's basically doing things in an ethical way without bias? So I think that's going to be quite a focus area over the coming years, because for innovation to thrive, you have to have the solid foundations in terms of understanding that you're doing the right thing, having the right controls in place and the like. So I can see generative AI having huge potential, but I think we should walk before we run in that space, and it should be adopted safely and in a mature manner. The regulators are pro-innovation, but are very clear about you need to manage your risks. The other aspect then is data science itself. So within financial services, there's lots of opportunities to solve and unlock complex problems. So, one of the areas that my team's been focusing on in the last couple of years is identifying money launderers and identifying, people who are susceptible to being scammed. And, the way to go about doing that, because of how complex the transactions and everything is, machine learning can really add value in that space. And I can see that to be, an area of continuing focus, because, it is a challenge across the industry to manage your fraud losses.
Yeah, gosh. And I can imagine there's a significant amount of money lost to fraud as well. So any percentage gain in that area, in that field, could rack up some serious amounts of money, I would think.
Yeah, there's precisely that. There's obviously losing the money is not good, but
Hmm.
also, as you know, Nationwide being a building society mutual, it really does, the customer is the heart of the decision. So that loss is, money that the customer is losing, has to go
Mm.
through the distress. There's obviously mechanisms of reimbursement, redress, but it's not a very nice experience for them. So hopefully
Sure.
through using data science to supplement already good and strong controls, we can look more in the grey areas to sort of clamp down on this type of activity and make sure that our customers are protected.
So in a rapidly evolving field like data science and generative AI, which you just mentioned, how do you keep abreast of all the latest developments and make sure that they're embedded in Nationwide?
So I think the best way to do that is by attending conferences.
Hmm.
So, myself, I'll go to conferences, I'll speak, I'll host panels, and just be open to learn. So,
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of people have a very good idea in the area that they specialize, but you can always learn. So it's
Yeah.
go in there, having the discussions, in a mutually beneficial way. Obviously, with some things you can't necessarily talk explicitly about it because it's IP, but you can
Mm.
still get a lot of learning from other people's experiences. So I think that's one of the key ways. And also because of the explosion in AI and Gen AI, there is a lot of material available from some of the top consultancies. You could even go on YouTube to get a rough gist of some things by looking at, some good quality content that's been built there. So there's a lot out there to sort of keep up to speed with it. But also from a financial services perspective, it's extremely important to keep in touch with what the regulations are as well.
Hmm.
So within the area that I work, the regulator have recently brought out a supervisory statement which gives instruction on model risk management. So what are the principles you need to be adopting to make sure you've got sound models? And in a similar manner, there's been broader discussions across financial services about how we manage the risks of AI.
Hmm.
It's quite embryonic, but it is rapidly sort of growing and developing. And like I said, my hope is within 5 years that we'll be able to innovate, but, in the knowledge that all the controls and everything are built, that there's that a bit more freedom rather than at the moment where you've got to be really cautious because you want to make sure you're doing things right where there may not be controls in place yet.
Yeah. So would I be right in saying then, given the regulatory requirements that you have to have and the controls which are of course necessary, that maybe AI can't quite take over the entirety of financial services within the next 10 years? You still very much need humans in the loop to make sure that you've got that the validity of what you're doing and that the ethics and privacy, that's all tip top. Would I be right in saying that?
100% right. The human loop is a very big part of it, John, because ultimately, the kind of things that I talk about with the work that we do is that we will never do hands-free. By
Hmm.
hands-free is essentially, you develop the models, which because of how easy things are these days, you could drag and drop and go out, pick model one because that's got the best loss saving.
Hmm.
If you don't check how that model's working, that's not going to go well because
Yeah.
there'll be a lot going on underneath the hood. If you productionize it, then you can't just go, oh great, it's in live, let it run. You need
Hmm.
if you think with a car, the RAC have a series of diagnostics to confirm that a car is working exactly as it should. It's exactly the same with models and artificial intelligence models that the team build. We've got loads of diagnostics just to make sure that everything stacks up as we expect. But you do also have that human element, which, for example, good cadence is to review your models on a
Hmm.
monthly basis, looking at the diagnostics, but then annually doing a review of the model to get approval to use it for another year based on the risk limitations and how it's performing. So there is a whole industry, particularly within financial services, of ensuring it's got that level of rigor. There is
Hmm.
the opportunity to innovate and to do R&D, but
Hmm.
mostly you've got to make sure that you've got your foundation solid.
Yeah, sure. So taking the conversation slightly different then about maybe people that are interested in working in data science, particularly financial services in the future. Is there any particular career advice you would give them? What sort of skill set would you expect them to have, for example?
I think in the more specialized areas like data science and to be fair, the modeling aspect, it would be to have a strong quantitative degree. So, my main advice would be focus on learning as much as you can when you're in university. Try as hard as you can to do as well as you can, because ultimately all of that time that you invest will bode well for the future. So, if I think of myself, I worked hard during my degree. You'd be surprised to know that was a very long time ago, but a lot of the fundamentals that I learned there are still applicable, in my job and with machine learning, because you're learning all the basics and you're learning all the core elements. Once you've got that, it's then a case of thinking about what actually interests me and what excites me. So, so if you're a strong quantitative person, it could be, you've got a passion. And if the passion is in economics, you should look at economics. For myself, I just liked applying statistics to data, and I liked improving things. And I thought if I go to banking, I'm going to have a lot of fun because there's a lot of opportunity to do that, and that's how it turned out. Yeah. So, it's sort of, it will vary, but with regards to the data science and modeling in particular, it's having that strong quantitative background. If you don't have that, there are a lot of other analytical opportunities within financial services, where it could start off as basically doing more rudimentary things within Excel. And then it can build up to using visualization tools. So where you're basically presenting diagnostics to the business in a palatable format so that they can see, okay, where is loss emerging? If I dissect in this way, where are the hot spots? And things like that. So there is very much a sliding scale from the more basic to the more advanced. So it'll depend on where you are within that scale, which by looking at job adverts should give a very good idea of that. And then once you found a sweet spot where you think it is right for you, it's then thinking about what motivates me, maybe something outside of maths, but, is it just generally solving problems? If it is, you're open to a lot of jobs. Yeah. If it's more you're interested in climate change, we've got specialists doing data science in that space in a different area of our team. So there's so many opportunities out there. I think that's the best advice I'd give. But from our perspective, strong quantitative, but that isn't necessarily the case across all jobs in financial services, of which there's a very wide range.
And would you expect a strong quant background to be accompanied by good communication? Or is that sort of passed elsewhere? Good teamwork? Do you look for these sorts of things as well?
100%. Because, ultimately, if you're going to build a strong team, you need to have individuals who are willing to work together. Some will have different strengths to other, but as long as they are willing to work together with each other, ultimately the team will be the stronger for it. So with regards to my team, we spend a lot of time cross-training, where we'll have people who've got experience or knowledge in certain technical skills, sharing it with the team. We'll have other members of the team who may be good at report writing, sharing that with the team. But being able to communicate to the business is absolutely critical, because if you are exceptional at data science and you are not able to sort of step back from explaining it's a non-parametric hyperplane, it's going to get lost on people. And what the business can't do, because it would be irresponsible, is go, I'll just use that because it sounds like it's clever. What the business will need to do is understand context. So instead of saying it's a non-parametric hyperplane, it would be, I'm using a machine learning technique, which is well known in this space. And ultimately what it enables us to do is to lend to 0.5% more customers in a responsible manner, because the risk of those customers is arguably better than some we are booking now. And if you articulate like that to the business, they would understand it. There's obviously a lot more paperwork that goes on in the background. But if you had an even better answer, but you went, it's a non-parametric hyperplane, there's a lot more people getting the product. You'd have people going, that sounds good. What does it mean to me? So
Sure.
it's very important. And, you can have cross-skilled across the team in terms of doing that, where you could even have data science roles where you're more in the back room doing the analysis and more customer-facing people doing and integrating into the business. But, in terms of my view is that it's better to have the data scientist speaking with the business, because unless you truly understand what's being done, you may get the messages wrong, or there may be some sort of mistakes that happen along the way.
That's great. Well, thank you, Matthew. Our time has come to a close, but thank you for that. That was absolutely fascinating.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.
All the best.